Okay, so essentially what this video is a behind the scenes look at my track Minbender. I've kind of been, I suggested doing this and some people wanted me to do it, so I think I'm going to give it a shot and just show the behind the scenes of this track, how I've made it and everything. So right off the bat here in the beginning, I'll just show you what it looks like here. Uh, we have this train that passes by, and I don't have my audio on the game, so you can't hear it. But that's just done by a simple animation over here with the object position events and the curved data sources. If you don't know how to use these, there'll be I think there's some tutorials on Red Links' official channel. They do lots of editor tutorials. They're quite confusing. I know it's not really specific on how to do things in the editor. I find myself just more confused really when I watch them. Um, but there are some other tutorials out there as well. I may even make one if that's something that people want to know. Um, but yeah, it's a simple animation there, and then it also triggers the train pass by sound effect there, and then I also have a controller vibration um, state on and off event up here, so that when the train passes by, your controller will get a vibration. Um, it just kind of makes it seem more realistic. I mean, this map isn't realistic at all, but you know what I mean. And then this sort of gravity effect where it kind of pulls you, where you kind of don't really know which side it is, that disorienting camera. That's just done by the fact that I've placed these obstacles to an angle, and I've also placed the camera at an angle, so you kind of think that you're right side up when really you're a little bit slanted. um, so yeah, moving on. The rotating buildings here. That's again just a simple animation, and it's the same thing with these big buildings back here. Only these are all glued together. It's all one object. And then I've used these animation events up here. So yaw, bank, and pitch for these big buildings up here. Okay, so yeah, so the next checkpoint. So this is a kind of cool little obstacle thing that I've made where the building turns and then it comes in on you and it makes its own, or it kind of has a ramp there. So the way I did this is this entire platform right here, concrete block and the warehouse building and the ramp and everything, all of this inside is all glued together as you see. And then once the rider gets off the ramp here, it triggers a goes to an impulse filter, which then goes to the state events for another animation, or two animations, I think. Yeah, so there's two sort of animations going on here. So this one here, position Z and pitch, that turns the building. So what it does, I think, is it moves it back a little bit first. I gotta check this. Hold on. -5. So I think, yeah, it moves it back just so when it turns, it's not hitting the player, as far as I'm aware. Yeah. So what it will do is it will move it back, and then the pitch will turn the building, and then this animation down here actually pushes it forward so that you go in, so the building actually goes in on you. So I'll kind of just play it again so you can kind of see. So while it's turning, it's actually kind of pushed back, because I think when I made it, um, the building was actually hitting you or something like that, so I had to push it back a little bit. That's what the position Z here is for. But essentially, it's just two animations together, combined, once you leave this ramp. And then again, a sound effect and another vibration event here. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's just all glued together inside the forklift, the cement bags, all the crates and everything, all the random stuff, and also the fire escape here. So yeah, once you get through that, if I can get up here, there we go. And then again, your camera's kind of tilted. I kind of did this on purpose. And then you have that building that comes in on itself, and then another train. And yeah, so I'm going to talk about this now. So again, just the different camera angles kind of messes with the mind a little. And then you have this little like traffic jam section here. And then here, this animation is pretty complicated for this building. Essentially what I did for this is the full animation for all of these data sources, they're all inverted second half, and they're on a time of 2:499. So what I did is when you reach this checkpoint, the animation goes out, as you can see. And then once you get up here, on this trigger, the animation will go back in, so it kind of looks like they started out all separated. As you can see, it looks as though it's all separated, and then it comes back in. But in reality, when you reach this checkpoint, it separates, and then I've timed it so that when you reach there, it all comes back in together to give the illusion that it starts off separated, if that makes sense. So what I did for that is I just did a state on when I reach the checkpoint down here, and then I take the delay filter, and then I put it as half the time of these data sources, which is 2:499, so half of it is 1:249, and then I turn them off, and then when they're up here, state event, and then I turn them back on again, and then they start from the same place they were again. So it's kind of like putting the animation on pause for a minute, and then when I reach this checkpoint, it resumes the animation, essentially. That's what that is. Yeah, and the reason you want to make it half is because I have these on inverted second half, so they'll go back to the position they were in, and that's how they were in. So yeah, that's all that is. And then I have just the sound effect for it as well, or that's over here. Yeah. So down here, this is the train, I believe. Yes. Yeah. So this is for a train horn, that trigger, and this one here is for the animation. So essentially what this is it just pushes the train forward, and then after a while, because I have a few delayed impulses for each car, but after a while it just bends downward, and I'll show that here. I'll go get to it. So again, what the train does is I'll brake here, and then you can see in the background it goes downwards. And that's essentially what all of this is right here. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the train. I'm gonna go towards the next checkpoint. If you know animations really well, this is kind of easy stuff. It's not too difficult. Some of them can be difficult, but it's not too bad. I've gone too far, haven't I? Okay. But yeah, like I said, for the animations, it's if you get to know how to do everything, it's pretty easy. If someone wants to see a full sort of in-depth guide on a specific event like this train, or maybe this one you want to see how exactly I've done the curved data sources, or just animations in general, I can make a tutorial. But like I said, there's kind of lots of tutorials out there that explains this sort of thing. And you can also have a look at the examples, and they show you animations of different things, like a forklift here, or they used to have a car one. I think that was on Fusion. But yeah, like there's these example objects that Trials has, so, and they just kind of show you the animations that they use. It's pretty cool tool to have, and if you're interested in animations and things like that, I'd recommend having a look at all of these and just kind of playing around with them and seeing how exactly they work. If you like start to change things in the data sources, you can kind of get an idea of how the different changes work. See, like I just added 3, so you can kind of see it's gone up more. So you can just play around with all these, and it takes practice learning how to do these, and just how they all work and that sort of thing, and playing around with it as much as you can really helps, like getting to know them and how they work. So for this, this is just a simple sliding building here. I did not use an animation for this because it comes in contact with the driver and the bike. So you should never use an animation when it comes in contact with the bike, because then you can actually go through the animation. So instead you want to use a physics joint here. And again, I'm not going to go into too much detail on how to use these unless someone wants a full guide. But I'm not going to do that in this video, but that's how I made this. And it just pushes the building along a little bit. So you can actually make this jump into this building here. Again, I keep saying it's pretty straightforward, but it's probably not. It's probably straightforward for a good editor, but not for a lot of people. And then this is just a thing that freezes your bike in the air. So again, this entire building is glued together more or less. And again, another animation, it spins around in a circle, and then you actually go onto this ramp at the end up here. You go onto the roof. So how you do the frozen effect is you take a variable data source, and what you do is you click on your rider and your bike, and then you press triangle on frozen, and then you click the data source. As you can see, I keep clicking it up and down. So, and then what that does is it sets a number to whether or not your bike is frozen or not. So as right now you can see it's 0, that means my bike is not frozen. But if I set it to 1, or this is, yeah, as I set it to 1, my bike is completely frozen. So you can play around with that sort of thing. And then to change it with a trigger, you use the set value events. So what this does is it sets a value to this data source, which will then affect whether or not your bike is frozen. So as you can see, I have it set to 1, so that's when it freezes the bike. And then I have a delayed impulse of 2 seconds, and then it sets it back to 0, so you're not frozen anymore. And that's how you make that effect. And again, just out here, so that's essentially that checkpoint there. And then here I have this building that moves towards you. And then I have this ramp that goes up, and then in the finish. So the building that comes towards you, and again, it's another animation. This is a much more complex one that uses 3 different data sources. When you're doing something like this, it's probably better to use path nodes. I haven't used those as of yet. I do intend to at some point. I'm not 100% sure on how they work. I'll just show them here. So path nodes like this. It's a new thing in Trials Rising, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, something like this, it's probably easier to use those. But I've used the animation here. Essentially, I'm just messing around with these ones, and it creates the building floating towards you. But yeah. So yeah, and then up here, again, I kind of messed with the gravity a little bit. I wanted to do a little hill climb that was a little bit not challenging, but just a little different, a little disorienting or something like that. And so I just kind of tilted it upwards, and then, yeah. This last thing is done by another physics joint, only this time it is a rotational hinge, which I have a motor on, by the way, which then forces the box or the little building to spin around in circles, like so. And all the background stuff as well is just made by animations like these, for example. It's just done by a simple animation where it manipulates the yaw. Sometimes you have to mess around with them because it might be a little bit, it might not be totally accurate. So for example, if I change this to pitch, it's going to change how it looks, which looks kind of cool actually. But anyway, let's turn that back. But that's essentially a behind the scenes look on how I made this track, I should say. These areas down here are just fail areas with a camera event, so you're not falling to the ground and you can see everything that's down below the track, because you don't really want the rider to see something that you haven't built around. So that's what the camera's for. But yeah, if there's any, what should I say? If there's any specific animations that you want in-depth guides to, or you have questions, just ask me in the comments and I will try my best to answer them as best as I can. Thanks for watching.